Today could be a big day for the Toronto Maple Leafs as John Tavares is on the brink of making history against his former team as he approaches 1,000 points. So I'm going to break that down in this episode of Leafs Digest, as well as Easton, Cowan, and Fraser, Minten. They've made Team Canada, and they are looking to make a big impact on the World Juniors this year, and they could also have a huge impact on the Maple Leafs going forward. So I'm going to break all that down in this episode. But before we do, a quick reminder to hit the subscribe button. About 80% of you guys who are watching right now are not subscribed, so scroll down, and if you aren't subscribed, hit that button as we approach 5,500 subscribers, and thank you guys for your support. All right, Darius, a big day today. A lot of things going on. Let's just get into the first topic, which is John Tavares making history, and he is on the road to 1,000 points. He's had a crazy career. It's great to see him, obviously, years ago signed with the Maple Leafs, and now against his former team, it is lining up that he could hit 1,000 points. He's 2 away from it. It would be amazing to see if he got there tonight. What are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on his tenure as a Leaf, and do you think he's going to hit it tonight?
It's pretty crazy that so far he's played pretty much as many games as a Leaf as he did with the
Yeah.
Islanders. It's just crazy to wrap my head around that. It just feels like yesterday the Leafs signed him. But like you said, poetic justice could happen tonight in Long Island. Not only is it against the Islanders, it's in New York.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how that could get any better of a storyline. That's insane. And all he needs is 2 assists. He could get a goal or an assist, and he's been on fire so far this year, to be honest. A lot of people are ragging on him for the slow foot speed and that he's like regressing a little bit. John Tavares is still at least a point a game player. He's still a really useful player, good face-off guy. And for him to be able to get 1,000 points tonight in this game would be unreal. The bench would clear. It would be on Islanders home ice. Like after the reception or the lack of reception that they gave him in his first game back, that would just be absolutely poetic justice. I think all Leaf fans need to see this. This would really help with some of the heartbreak.
Yeah.
This would be really nice to see. But yeah, JT has just been fantastic over the years. And I think without like COVID seasons and lockouts and all that stuff, he'd be well over 1,000 points, probably in like the 1,200 point range, something like that. But you know, since his debut in the NHL, he's been one of the best players since like 2008. He's up there with Ovi and Crosby and those guys. He's been one of the best players, and hopefully tonight he can finally hit that huge milestone.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be big for the for Leafs fans and the team especially. We all know the injury bug has hit us. Joseph Wall's been out, Timothy Liljegren's been out, Giordano's been out, just to get something positive. And the Leafs have been playing fairly well. If you look at their standings, like we all kind of get fogged by the amount of negative stuff that's been going on, but they've been playing decent, and having him hit it in New York would just be a poetic justice. And like you mentioned, the screenshot shows here, John Tavares chases 1,000 points despite a lockout and 2 COVID years and the first 8 seasons in the low-scoring NHL. So he's on pace for a good season this year. Like you said, his foot speed, even if it's down a little bit, he's not the player he was a few years ago per se. If you want to believe that, sure, you're probably right. But that doesn't mean he's an ineffective player. He's been very good for this team, veteran presence, and I don't know where the Leafs would be without him, not only for the past few years, but this year especially, given everything that's happening. We have young guys like Matthew Nyes up there. He's been helping a ton with, I'm sure, a lot of intangibles as well.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, John Tavares is everything for this team, and I think he gets ragged on because he's probably not as appealing as like an Austin Matthews or William Nylander or Mitch Marner, like some of the younger guys, because he came in as a free agent, but he is the captain. He's done so much for this team. And like you mentioned, like there was a lockout, the 2 COVID seasons, or the shortened seasons, whatever you want to call them at this point. There was a season in there too. I think it was 21, 22. Right after he got injured in the playoffs, Leaf fans would remember like Corey Perry kneeing him in the head, where he wasn't the same, and he's climbed back from that as well. So he's been able to help the young players on the team as well. It's been great to see, and for him to reach this milestone, I'm really hoping that he gets it tonight, obviously because it's in Long Island, but they're going to celebrate the next home game in Toronto for this amazing achievement. I just really want to see it. I want to see it as soon as possible.
Yeah, let's hope they actually also win tonight, which is I'm sure what John Tavares cares a lot more about than this 1,000 points. But had to give him his props, and he's been great this season, despite everything that's been bad with the Leafs. Has been one of the bright shining points. And speaking of shining points, let's get into the prospects that are breaking out. And we're talking about the World Juniors, we're talking about Team Canada, and we're also focusing on the Leafs. Easton, Cowan, Fraser, Minten. I made a video on it a few days ago. They are looking to be very, very impactful players for the Leafs going forward. You can talk about Easton, Cowan, you can talk about Fraser, Minten yourself, whichever one you would prefer to talk about. I think Fraser, Minten obviously had a phenomenal preseason. He started the season with the actual Maple Leafs, 4 games, obviously didn't put up any points. But what are your thoughts on them? You see the screenshot here, Canada selection camp getting underway tonight in Oakville. You see Cowan, you see Minten. these guys are going to have a big impact on the Leafs going forward. Fraser Minten probably in the more near future, but I'm excited that these guys get a chance to improve their game at this level.
Yeah, Minten just naturally being older, I think is going to get a shot with the Leafs sooner than Easton Cowan, just because he might be a little bit more NHL ready. Obviously, he's played in the NHL, but like you said, the selection camp or their mini camp to kind of see exactly what the roster is going to be is underway in Oakville, and it's always an exciting time to see what exactly is going to happen in the line combos because there's so many different intangibles from different leagues, right? WHL, QMJHL, and the OHL, obviously. But to get into Fraser Minten, we knew he was going to make this team. I would have been surprised if he didn't make this team just because of the impact he's had. And he's a big name coming back to the WHL this year. And so far, since being sent back from the Leafs, he has 10 points. Sorry, he has 5 points in 6 games, which is not bad. He's still getting his feet under him, traded to a new team. I think he's going to figure it out. He's a good player. And he's really important up the middle as well. I think he's going to play a huge part for Saskatoon down the stretch. And I think the World Juniors is going to be a time where he can be showcased to the whole world, really. I think he's going to showcase what he can do at that center position. And then in terms of Easton Cowan, he has gone off this year for London in the OHL. 39 points in 23 games. This guy was an afterthought. Honestly, I'm just being honest. He was a little bit of an afterthought on the London Knights last year and kind of a surprising pick for the Leafs. He comes into training camp, surprises everyone. There was talk of him making the team, which is just absurd for somebody his age. And he's just putting on a show in the OHL. He was kind of looked over for Team Canada this year, I think. And he comes out, has this amazing year so far, makes the team, and I think he's going to show out in this tournament. I think Leaf fans are going to really like what they see from him because so far this year, against, some of the best competition in the OHL, he's putting on a show. He is that guy. He is putting up the points.
Yeah, and I was showing the stats there like you were saying. Easton Cowan, 18 years old, 39 points. He had 53 points last year, and like you said, felt like an afterthought. He's still an okay season, but a lot of NHL fans out there, some of my friends were saying, why did you draft him 28th overall? Some thought it was a bit of a stretch. Some had him in the second round. Some mock drafts had him in the third round. Whatever you had him at, he's been performing. It seems like a good pick so far, and naturally Fraser Minten will be the guy who's going to make the more immediate impact. We saw his great preseason into the NHL. He only played 4 games. He didn't look great out there in the 4 games, but that's naturally to be expected. He's 19 years old. But like you said, with the Blades, 5 points, 2 goals, 3 assists, he's starting to get his feet back under him, and all of this, the World Juniors, his brief time in the NHL when talking about Fraser Minten, it will all develop to help him in the long run. Whether he starts and plays a lot of games next season, the season after is yet to be seen. But I think as a more immediate future, Fraser Minten's more exciting. And when you're looking at, a long-term play, I mean, Fraser Minten's only 1 year older than Easton Cowan, but Easton Cowan's 18, and he's looking like an absolute star and a very good pick at 28th overall, even though it was seen as a bit of a stretch at the time by many NHL fans.
Yeah, and something I wanted to touch on too, in terms of the World Juniors, and in terms of the Leafs and how this might translate to the Leafs, these two guys, especially Fraser Minten, are going to be relied on to play big minutes in big situations in this tournament. Like the stakes are high. Canada takes the World Juniors very seriously. All right. And Fraser Minten's going to be looked upon as a centerman in high stakes situations. I think that could translate to the NHL level, down the road in the playoffs. But how do you perform in those moments? That's what I'm going to be looking for from these two guys, because I think they will be relied upon throughout the tournament in those situations. So I want to see how they perform in, those situations like that, because the Leafs obviously don't really do that well. So how will these young guys handle that pressure, and will that translate to the NHL? I think that would be interesting to watch.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen players in the past, not that it necessarily translates 1-to-1, but you can kind of get a glimpse of what they could be like, and especially when we're talking about Fraser Minten, as he's already played with the Leafs. It'll be interesting to see how he fares against some of the other young players from the other teams in other countries. But that'll wrap up the video. Let us know in the comment section what your thoughts are on Tavares, if you think he will hit 1,000 points tonight, or if it will take a few more games, and hopefully the Leafs can take care of business against the Islanders tonight. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.